Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruch.com.
The mitzvah to testify on someone's behalf in court, and the prohibition against giving or publicizing testimony that cannot be corroborated in a court of law. So there are some common misconceptions regarding edus or testimony that, while accepted by secular law as valid and acceptable and within the norm, in halacha carries a very different status. So in the case that a person witnessed something or contains testimony about a certain matter, A, is he obligated to testify? B, is he allowed to testify? This, of course, all being with regards to testifying in a Beis Din, a Jewish court of law, or in a secular court of law after having permission from the Beis Din to take the case there. So in the pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, we learn that it is a biblical command in the Torah for one who witness a certain matter that can be of benefit to another person in Beis Din, for him to testify in Beis Din on this matter on the person's behalf. So rules the Gemara in Bava Kama 56a and is recorded in Shulchan Aruch in the Mechaber Choshen Mishpat, chapter 28, halacha 1. Is listed as mitzvah 122 in the Sefer HaChinuch. A person who withholds his testimony transgresses a prohibition. This obligation applies whether the testimony can assist or benefit another Jew in monetary matters, or even, as the poskim emphasize, if the testimony can lead to the Beis Din giving punishment to a person for sinful behavior which is being testified about, or that the Beis Din can stop others or the perpetrator from transgressing this sinful behavior through this witness's testimony. In halacha, this is called the afrushe mi'isura, to separate one from an isser. Even in such a case, one who has testimony must testify. The poskim, however, clarify one very important point regarding this obligation of testimony. The obligation to testify, if you know something, say something, only applies if the testimony of the witness meets the halachic standards of corroboration held according to Jewish law, and his testimony will be accepted, fully or partially, regarding this case. If, however, his testimony is halachically viewed as uncorroborated or invalid, and thus the court cannot do anything with it, then not only is he not obligated to testify, but in certain cases he even transgresses a prohibition if he does so. Thus, for example, records the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat, chapter 28, halacha 1. We have a general rule in Torah that we only believe two witnesses, with exception to certain cases of monetary claims, or to separate one from an isser, but in general we need two witnesses to establish a transgression, or a monetary obligation. So says the Ramah, if a single witness comes forth and testifies regarding a certain sin, transgression, if he is doing so in order to prevent and deter people from transgressing, then not only is his testimony accepted, but it's encouraged and a mitzvah to do so, as we stated above. If, however, his testimony has no implication regarding the future, and he's simply telling over a story of the past regarding an individual, that a certain individual transgressed a certain sin, writes the Ramah, it is forbidden for him to testify in court. And if he does so, he's considered to be Meitzi Shemra. So this already completely overturns the notion that many have, under influence of secular society, that if you know something, you know it for a fact, you saw it with your own eyes, you have 100% license and permission to spread it to the world, to take it to court, because you know it for a fact. You saw it with your own eyes, you were witness to it. Comes the Torah and tells us, it depends. Sometimes you doing so is a mitzvah and obligation, and sometimes you doing so is a severe prohibition. Even though in both cases you know for a fact it happened. The stick of measurement is, what will your testimony accomplish in court? If the Beis Din can't do anything about your testimony, then you're Meitzi Shemra. If they can, then you have a mitzvah. The Sma in his commentary on this ruling of the Ramah writes that on this applies the Talmudic dictum or aphorism of Tuvya chata v'zigud menagud, which literally means Tuvya sinned and Zigud was lashed. This is a dictum brought in the Gemara in Makis 11a and recorded in length in the Gemara in Psachim 113b. The Gemara there states that an individual named Zvid once testified of a sexual sin that he saw performed by a person named Tuvya. And Zvid told this testimony what he witnessed to Rav Papa. Rav Papa subsequently ordered Zvid to be lashed, the informer, the witness. A perplexed Zvid questions, says the Gemara, Tuvia sins and Zvid gets lashed. Tuvia chata v'zigud menagid. Rav Papa said back to him, you're a single witness. The Torah doesn't believe a single witness. It's uncorroborated and dismissed in court. So what you're saying is not true according to Torah. We can't believe you. If so, what you just told me is Lashon Hara. And the transgression of that a single witness is not to testify in court. And thus he administered lashes to Zvid. So to summarize, every individual that contains testimony or eyewitness to a certain event contains a very heavy responsibility which can go both ways. Either to require him to testify, and it's a mitzvah for him to do so, if the Beis Din can do something about his testimony, according to halacha, or to keep his testimony and witness to himself, and not say anything because halacha cannot be considered or accepted in a Beis Din, thus is considered Lashon Hara for him to tell over what he saw. This is all theoretical. Practically, what's considered uncorroborated or invalid testimony that cannot be brought or accepted in a court of law? And do we really set the standard that a single witness is always negated? What about hearsay? What's the status of that? And what happens if lack of accepting testimony outside of the Torah parameters allows criminals and perpetrators to spread and have no fear of the rule of law? So all this in Meretz Hashem we will discuss in part 2 of this halacha, to define what is uncorroborated and invalid testimony, and in which situations do we overpass the technical Torah laws of edus of testimony for this regard. Nonetheless, from what we have already learned is that prior to telling over something negative that someone saw of another, even if it's to a Beis Din, and certainly to others, it must follow the proper halachic guidelines and permissions to do so.
Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruchHarav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at ShulchanAruchHarav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.